Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of History After Hours. My name is Kevin Pumphrey, and with me is Mr. Ron Franklin and Jeremy Nixon. We are three teachers from Lakeside High School in Hot Springs, Arkansas. We are recording this episode on Thursday, November 4th, and in this episode, we talk about some of the roof construction and how that's affected our teaching. They give us a little oversight into their World History Torture Day. We talk a little bit about the Facebook changing their name. We get a little nostalgic about our family and our childhoods. We kind of compare it to the way it is today, as old people do. And finally, we talk about the best and worst Thanksgiving food. So it's a little different kind of show today. We hope you enjoy the podcast. All right, another episode of History After Hours. Today is Thursday, November the 4th, I believe. Yes, and if you hear a large bang, it's because they are working on our roof. And you'd be surprised how difficult it is to teach with banging on the roof. How has y'all's experience with that been? Or sometimes there's intercom interruptions. And then they go away. Okay.
Reset.
Yeah. As far as interruptions and the roof, that has been, it's insane how difficult it is to concentrate. It's because the banging, if it was steady, like a clock ticking, well, I think, we put it in the background of our minds, but man, the banging has been, and I know we needed a new roof. So they're tearing off the old roof. They're putting on a new roof. Yet teaching class with students, half of them that are distracted anyway, and then all of a sudden you have a big bang.
Yeah, it's like an elephant's ballet class over my head sometimes, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes it's just this steady thumping. Other times you think somebody's going to come through the roof on you. I mean, we've had some rooms where things have fallen through on classrooms, and so that's been problematic. Like you said, I know we need it, but it's hard to concentrate. I've had to adjust a couple of times to what we're doing or what we were talking about because of it.
Yeah, it's no one's fault, but man, it makes things interesting in the classroom. And apparently they're going to be working for a while, and we're going to have to kind of work around this situation. But so, yeah, I enjoy now. I hear silence, and that's kind of nice at this point.
It's a nice reprieve.
It is.
Yeah.
I tell my kids, I just lose train of thought. I just look at them and go, I don't remember what I was saying. It's that distracting. That, especially like today in AP Gov, we're talking campaign finance, and I'm sitting there trying to go over specifics of like McCain-Feingold Act, and I'm just, my brain just
So you're
stopped.
saying that you would need to concentrate
A
while
little.
you're talking about that? You don't need to concentrate it while. Okay, so it should just come naturally to you, no matter what is going on around you, no matter what Civil War reenactment is happening in our midst. Seriously, the other day I thought I was going to lose my mind. I'm not kidding. I had to just stop. We just took the whole class and we left. Just walked out in the hall because I just had to get away from it for a minute.
Oh yeah, we tried to find a place in the library, and I was wanting to go outside, and of course, as soon as this happens, where I'm thinking about going outside, it turns cold. So now it's like too cold to go outside, so we have to find a place inside. So once again. If you want to become a teacher, this is something that would never cross your mind before you get a job. And you can talk about lessons plans and assessments, but when they're banging on the roof, all bets are off.
How to teach during Armageddon. Roofmageddon.
Yeah, what you got to do is you just got to teach about war. And then the banging makes sense.
The irony of it happening on Torture Day in World History was funny, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was like, this is torture.
There was some sawing.
So describe, okay, so I'm a U.S. history guy. So I don't have the luxury of doing Torture Day, although I guess I could.
Listen, think about what he just said. I don't have the luxury of doing Torture Day.
I know. It seems like something fun the kids would get into.
They like
talk
it.
to me about it a little bit.
They like Torture Day. Okay, I started Torture Day about 13 years ago now, I guess.
And it's been the whole time I've been here.
It's become this thing that kids look forward to. They hear about it from their siblings that have come through before. I try to talk it up too. Like first day of class when I'm trying to, get people's attention and things. I'm like, well, okay, so here's several things we're going to concentrate on this year. Here's this day and here's that day, and then we'll have Torture Day, and I keep going. And inevitably, some kid will be like, whoa, you say torture day? You want to explain that? And I'll go, no, not really. Not right now. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. So we amp it up.
Torture them a little
the
bit.
whole year. Yeah, so we kind of tease a little bit with it and dramatize the fact that it's coming. Okay, here, and, next chapter, here comes torture day. You kind of throw that in there every now and then. They go, what is this? What's it going to be? So they're building this anticipation in their mind about what the day is going to be. Well, we're studying Middle Ages, and so medieval torture devices, and then, but it's not as gruesome as it sounds. We don't show pictures of these things being used, but we do. So, hey, here's a device, and we talk about how it was used, and the descriptions of that can be, I guess, can be intense. Although it doesn't, it's not necessarily geared to be, traumatic, obviously. But at the same time, this happened, and they need to know why and how it was used. And so that's really the point. It's not just about showing these things. It's about fitting it into its context and saying, here's what people were going through, and here's how jurisprudence worked at that time when you have a real theocracy, at play. And so it serves its purpose. And it's, I don't know, some kids really, really are too into it, actually. Some kids are moderately like, okay, cool, fascinated. Some are like, I don't know. I've had a couple of kids go, I can't watch this. I'm like, okay, don't watch.
Yeah,
and I tell them that ahead of time before, too. And I'm like, look, I warned them the day before, and I warned them that day. Look, if you're overly sensitive, I should say even overly sensitive, because it can be, pretty tough. If you're sensitive and you know that you can't handle this and you know that you're not going to, or you thought you could get into it and then you realize halfway through that it's not, because just like real torture, it amps up towards the end of the story. The devices get worse and the actions get worse. And so I was like, if you get into this and you can't handle it, then you need to let somebody know. Like, I don't want somebody's mama calling me going, you made my kid listen to or watch that. I was like, I'm not making your kid do anything, ma'am. Your kid chose to sit here through this. There were plenty of warning. It's like parental warning stickers on the lesson plans, But ultimately, the kids, I think, it's been one of the highlights of their year, strangely enough.
Weirdly.
Yeah, kids like it.
They love it.
I've got kids that graduated 10 years ago be like,
oh, sure, yeah.
You still do torture day? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I have kids who have missed it or who have been absent. They're like, the next year we'll come back and go, hey, can I come to your class for this day? I missed it last year. Yeah. But yeah, there are kids who get a little too into it. I had a kid that I think she'd gone to the bathroom and came back. We were talking about torture day and upcoming and what was happening, and she said, wait, we get to torture people? I was like, oh yeah, don't you know? We took a vote while you were out of the room. It's you. I'm like, I'm just kidding. But she was excited about the...
Yeah, I mean, when you think about how interested they are in this, it does reveal this side of humanity. Yeah. It's the same reason people can't look away when there's a car crash. They have to rubberneck.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. But like I said, we're not showing anything graphic. It's not. But we are describing situations that can be graphic and intense. And there is a macabre curiosity, I think, to these things. But I always sort of follow up with, aren't you glad you live in a country that's banned these kind of activities? Because they do still happen in other parts of the world. And they were like, what? I said, oh, yeah. And then it doesn't happen in our civic life, but, the military uses a different code of ethics. And so we'll eventually talk about, Guantanamo Bay and Abu Ghraib and those kind of things. And are they torture and are they not? I even got to the point where, we had a small discussion about solitary confinement during torture day, because there is that conversation right now in our legal system, or about our legal system. Is solitary confinement torturous? I mean, you can make a strong argument that it is.
Isn't that crazy that the worst punishment we can give you in prison is to put you by yourself?
Yeah,
like that's bad enough. But when y'all talk about torture day, and I know enough about it, that it shows also human creativity. Bob Dylan's pretty creative with music. We've got Renaissance painters that are awesome. These people were pretty creative when it came to torture.
This is thoughtful. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's by modern standards heinous, but they use them and design them to be so gruesome that maybe they wouldn't have to use them. I mean, that was part of the point too. Don't make us do this to you.
Yeah, we talk about that, and I'll even post to them, what's the purpose of this? Is it supposed to be a deterrent? And has modern society developed to where it's supposed to be rehabilitation? And think about that when you leave after torture day. because it has changed, and we view things differently to the point where what lockup cell I think is the closest to solitary confinement from torture day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the one. The lockup one was the one that reminded me of that, and I brought it up to him. But even things like, and even though we didn't put it on there, but we talk about the dunce caps and things, public humiliations, which we get to the point now where you can't even look crossways at a child or you are abusing them. I mean, I'm sure there are people who feel that way, although there's a lot of us who still don't. But yeah, it's like this notorious thing that students, again, if they've had siblings they've come through, they've warned them ahead of time that there's going to be torture day. I'll get kids coming to me on open house day. The very first time they met me, are you the guy that does torture day? Like, yeah, that's me.
We got to find some way to reach these children. Torture seems like a pretty good way.
I mean, I don't want to say it's all in fun because it's not, because it's a very serious thing we're doing. But at the same time, I want them to understand that history is filled with all kinds of curiosities, and this definitely fits into that category, and it's something to be intrigued by. And it does come along within October when we basically teach this, so it kind of fits into the spooky season stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Students are always like, if you could pick another time period to live in, what would it be? And then I think about torture day, and I think about this stuff, and I'm like, I couldn't make it if you went back more than 50 years or so. My grandparents had it so tough. But I was talking to my wife the other day. We were watching some show, and it was set in the 1500s, like Renaissance time period. And I told her, I said, if you took me as I am now and you transported me back to this time, I probably couldn't understand anybody. But even if I could I actually physically be attracted to someone? I mean, their teeth are rotting out at the age of, I've got these beautiful teeth because we've got fluoride and I brush, but even the most beautiful woman, Helen of Troy, her teeth were rotting out at 20, and just like they're just used to that and the smells and I'm just like, that right there alone, the smell.
Just the modern hygienic element.
Oh, yeah.
And the loss of that moving backwards would be,
I would. I'd get appendicitis as soon as I go back and kill me, because nobody knows what it's happening. They think I'm possessed by a demon.
Look at that guy with his shiny teeth.
Oh yeah, he must be the devil.
He must be the devil.
Yeah, really. And wasn't that on Back to the Future? I think when Marty McFly goes back to the Old West, they grab his mouth and say, "Look at those teeth." It's like he's bought them at the store, something like that.
I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, me too.
What's that writing? Nikkei. He's talking about his shoes. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But okay. So would it be harder without that conditioning, just to think blank? I think we may have talked about this before. I don't know. Would it be harder for us to go back 100 years, or for someone to come forward 100 years and live in our time?
So 100 years.
I just picked that randomly, but we could adjust that as need be. But which would be more difficult, going backwards or coming forwards? A century.
I think you do have to set it at 100 years because every time you extend it, it would make it so different. I think it would be easier for us because we're history teachers. We could at least have an inkling of what life was like. Mm-hmm. We might, unfortunately, that also might make it worse, because we go back knowing what we have to do. If you take somebody from the 1920s and put them here, they would be probably amazed by.
But I think they might be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Amazed, yes, but I think that it might be so dramatically different beyond what their comprehension could be able to handle. I think they'd have a meltdown. Because of the way we associate with each other, not just the conversations that we have, but the technologies that we have. I see that happen I've seen it happen in my own lifetime, where people who are just older than me are confounded by some of the technology that the kids have. Mm-hmm. Do that from a person who lived in 1920, and then bring them to 2020. I just don't know. I think
the radio to the internet,
it might really be overwhelming. And bring them forward with all of their prejudices, and see how we've tried to erase boundaries in society, and how they've got these hierarchies in their head, but bring them now. I just think about the magic that we live within, that they would have been so that wouldn't even been part of their mindset, things that we can do.
Yeah, what one thing? Okay, leave the internet aside because I don't even think they would wrap their brain around that. But other than the internet and that, what one thing would they be most shocked by technologically? I mean, I think of just a huge passenger
Pictures
jet.
of other planets?
Maybe that. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I think something like that because humans forever have looked up. And they've dreamed about flying and whatnot. I think a huge jumbo jet streaking across the sky. Because in 1920, we had biplanes and triplanes and
A dude with a jetpack. Forget the plane, just a dude flying around by himself.
yeah, I think that kind of thing, knowledge, like looking at other planets.
Laser pointers.
anything to do with space, probably shuttle launches, rocket launches, satellites.
That would be scary, yeah.
Could we keep their attention with a laser point, like a cat?
That's what I'm saying, laser pointer.
Kind of sad.
Hey, Da Vinci. You thought you were so brilliant. Look at this.
Come here.
But no, that's, okay, I mean, television,
Yeah.
video, anything. I mean, your smartwatch
Yeah,
that you're
you can
wearing.
hold out a smart-
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can predict the weather.
Yeah.
Air
Can
conditioning.
if you could go back in time with your
air
weather predicting device, you could be a god.
Yeah, you could.
It will storm next Tuesday.
Yep.
That's the thing is if you go back to a historical event
Next
with
Wednesday,
like a machine
bring-
gun.
Oh, yeah.
just
I mean,
change
it's-
the-
Yeah. So I predict a storm next Tuesday, and I also predict that next Wednesday you're going to bring me all your gold.
yeah.
What one thing do you think you would have the most trouble adjusting to if
Going
you
backwards?
if you went to 1920?
I really, really, really like hygienic
Yep.
products.
It's got to be that. Yep.
it's- personal hygiene would be something that would be problematic. I also am a fan of climate control.
Yes.
Air conditioning. It depends on where you're at, right? So if you're up in the north, you got to worry about the winter killing you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we have fire. You could, with stoves, they have that. If you're down here in Arkansas, though, it's going to get hot,
Yeah.
and you're just going to have to deal with the heat.
I mean, I don't know. As far as like aside from that though, if we didn't count those things, what would you say? What would be the hardest adjustment? The slowness of life?
Yeah, I think so. Just
Lack of
the
movement.
pace.
Yeah, the slow pace, maybe.
Like if you go back, then you're just wherever you end up, that's where you're going to be. Like it's difficult to move around. I mean, they had cars, but this is 1920. Not many people had cars.
Yeah, I remember my great-grandfather on my mother's side telling me that they used to stand on the dirt road when they heard a car might be passing by their town. Like the town would come out to stand by the road and watch the car come by because they traveled with horses and wagons when he was a boy.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Yeah, that's right. I was trying to make sure I got the right generation there, but yeah, they were
Also,
like,
boredom. Like
yeah.
we are so constantly entertained. Would anything
but
impress
I don't
us?
think that they had to work though. I don't think they had time to be bored because they were always
Right.
busy trying not
That's
to
true.
die.
They might put us to work.
Yeah.
I remember a little
which
bit
I
of
could-
that.
If they didn't kill
Hey,
us.
which also, by the way, I don't think I'd be suited for because I mean, I ain't no farmer. I mean, I'm well suited to my comfortable life. I promise you that. I don't think that I could work the way they worked. I mean, I could have adjusted, I suppose, but I wouldn't want to. You know what I mean? Like they work their butts off.
I would try to find a dairy farm because I've at least milked a cow.
You've had some experience with that.
I've got
yeah.
experience with cows, so
I've been-
but not like we pushed buttons to open the gates and like it's a
Yeah.
whole different.
I've
they
been
were-
pretty pampered my whole life. I promise you. I mean, I don't know that kind of manual labor is in my blood anymore. I mean, I guess you do what you have to do, but dang.
Yeah, you did everything yourself. There was no one giving you handouts. I mean, the food you had gardens. I mean,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up with the garden. I grew up with, the hogs getting out in the middle of the night, and you're trying to get them back in the mud and that.
See, I've never experienced any of that.
But I don't want to go back to that. I mean, could I? Yeah. Do I want to? No. I don't even want to go out to Bismarck in the summers and help in the garden anymore. Like, I'll do it, but.
Yeah, when my brother left, a lot of that fell on me. He's 7 years older, and I just remember my dad coming in. I think it was around 2 or 3 a.m., and we had a cow down having a calf, and the calf needed to be pulled, and I had to go help with pull the rope. And
So you've
this
been
is on
shoulder deep
school
in-
night. So like school nights didn't matter that much because I might have to take off in the middle of the night.
You've been shoulder deep in a bovine. birthing experience?
My dad did most of that for me, although I had to do a little bit of it. But just being that close to the whole operation made me go, I'm going to be a teacher or anything else.
Anything besides?
See, mine was hog killing when they would, kill and butcher, and you're
Oh,
a kid
yeah.
and you're watching that. And I'm like, I don't want to do this.
And yeah, if you go back 100 years, or especially if you live around here, it's you'd see it every day. You would see so much of that kind of thing.
Yeah, everybody had cows. Everybody had pigs, hogs.
Yeah.
And I mean, they would. I mean, I don't know if it was my great grandparents or the generation before them. Like, they were sharecroppers. I mean, you didn't work your own land; you worked somebody else's land. I mean, that's a tough life.
Yeah.
For not much gain.
Yeah. I mean, I complained about getting chased by the chickens, but that's nothing compared to,
What was it with you and the chickens, man? Did you antagonize the chickens?
Well, they hated it when I played.
They held a grudge?
When I practiced my trumpet. And then my great-grandmother would be like, they won't lay for a week. Get out of there.
They won't lay for a week. Get out of there. That's something you don't hear every day.
I know. It's a unique upbringing.
Oh yeah, I mean I know people that are such animal lovers and dog lovers and cat lovers, and for me, just the way I grew up, it's just like we have a very different view of all animals. I think when you grow up on a farm, because you're just around them, and a lot of them make you mad. They don't do what you want them to do. And dogs were just stray dogs that we would just adopt. I mean, we petted them and stuff, but
barn cats.
Yeah. So I had this, and I might probably mentioned this before. I always thought that if you were born in the 1890s and you lived a good full life of 100 years, the amount of change that you had seen.
Yeah, you've seen a lot.
So you saw, like, the first major thing might be the Wright brothers, 1903, that airplane, and then you just go down the road to the moon landing, to the birth of the internet, really at the very end of your life. But I think if you have been born in the last decade, because just predict in 100 years. Like, actually went through a relatively, like, the things that we knew when we were kids have just gotten better. Of course, the internet has been born. That was a huge shift, and it's only accelerating. But, man, I wonder what kids are going to be experiencing.
What do you think about this new Facebook metaverse thing? Have you looked at this at all?
I'm against it. Whatever.
Well, okay. So the rebranding is almost like a serial killer taking a new name.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there are some definite problems with Facebook and social media, and they've even been, testifying before Congress right now about, are they actually just in it for profit, or are they there for the social experience and helping people's lives get better, man? Or is it just this mega billion-dollar corporation that's just trying to suck your soul out and steal your information to sell to other people or whatever? So there's all of these conversations about what it is. Well, they've gone through and they go, well, now we're meta.
Yeah.
We're meta.
What does that mean?
Meta, like beyond.
Yeah.
Like, so if I'm saying something's metaphysical, it's beyond physical.
Right, but I mean, why would they...
beyond the regular internet. The way I saw them describe it the other day was, the internet is flat and boring, and we need to make it more immersive. And so you're going to become your own avatar, and everything's going to be like, how what was that the Pokemon Go thing where you're like, you have the thing and you can see it in real life out on this, right?
Yeah.
And so there's going to be more of that, I think, where they're
augmented reality.
Augmented reality. Yeah, I was trying to come up with the phrase. Stuff like, not virtual reality, augmented reality.
Yeah, I think augmented reality is going to be more important as we move forward than virtual reality.
So but what do you think about the next generation of interneting and the universe? What is it called? The Internet of Things? Like, everything's going to be connected to the internet now. Smart houses, smartphones, smart cars, smart thermostats, smart you, maybe dumber you, when everything else gets smarter. I don't know. But I was curious what your thoughts are on that, because I saw a report just today, as a matter of fact, where people were an ex-Facebook employee who has actually come out and said, I was one of the first investors in this, and I was really proud of it and all that. But he's come out as a critic of Zuckerberg and all these things, and him saying, look, this is dystopian. He actually used that phrase.
One of the programmers came out in 17, 18, somewhere in there. After Trump won the election and Facebook was getting all this, it started to go down, and they were actually starting to lose money. And this programmer said they changed the algorithms, and the way they changed them is it shows people the most controversial stuff on at the top of their feed. So whatever they think will make you, which is getting the most heat on the internet, that's the stuff that will pop up first on your feed. So it's not about taking a picture of your food. That's not what you're going to see. And really, if you think about, like, I just noticed that there's a lot of my friends, I barely get on Facebook, but when I do, it's like, oh, I haven't thought about that person in a long time. And I used to see them on Facebook all the time. And I've noticed it. I've noticed that I'm seeing the same kind of things over and over. And a lot of it is political things. And what I was saying was, are they changing their name to Meta because they just want to change?
I think
mean,
part
like,
of it. I think part of it is the rebranding because there are elements of the Facebook motif that have become tainted, perhaps, and this is a shift away from that. Kind of like when Philip Morris changed its name, the cigarette company changed its name to Altria. Yeah. Yes, it's the same company basically, but just rebranded. So it's similar to that in my opinion. But it's also, I think, the fact that they're fixing to push into this. I mean, I think there's going to be this launch between Facebook and also you get these super billionaires wherever they happen to be, whether it's Bezos or what's Elon Musk and all these guys. I think there's going to be this push. I think there's going to be this interesting new expansion of technology and things that are going to be interactive in our lives, but I don't know that I'm comfortable with that. Or maybe it's just me being old. I don't know.
Well, let's ask our lawyer here. And I don't know how much you want to go into this, but when the TV was coming out and programs and they had to figure out what the TV. When they had to figure out what to censor in movies in America. And, France was going crazy because they were showing everything, and we had to figure that out. And we were trying to, same thing with music, parental discretion advised, and the rating systems and all that.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm thinking about the social media stuff. Do you have a sense of what can be done? What's your thoughts on?
It can be controlled because I know countries who do.
Yeah, but of course there's a downside to some of that, right? Well, government control of private corporations is not ideal.
But don't you worry about the internet free-for-all, Wild West sort of? I mean, anybody at any age can pretty much see anything they want. And what is that? Again, maybe it's just me being old, but I worry about that.
Can you give us like the elevator pitch for what we should do to save our country?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, go, Nixon, go.
So legally, just talk about what are some options here that would be, what do you think would be a good way to at least try?
Well,
to regulate, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, we want to stop misinformation because that is destroying us, and people are buying into all these crazy things. And
it's almost like people seek out misinformation, which goes along with what I was saying a while ago about augmented reality. It's like if augmented reality is reality, then no matter what BS lie you've told, it can be part of that too, and people can just be okay with it.
I know.
Like, where's the truth?
Is there anything we can do about any of this?
Where's our willingness to seek out the truth as opposed to this fantasy land that we seem to want to war? And I'm not putting myself into that, but I mean, but there's this push that we should want that. You know what I mean? They're trying to sell that idea to us.
Well, TV, when TV was the thing. That's when we had broadcast licensing, right? So radio, TV, broadcast licensing, and you could get your license revoked. So, I mean, there were some people pushing for internet service providers to be licensed and regulated, and you have to have, like you were saying, like warning for content, and you can't do this at this time or this at this time or the 7 words you can't say. I mean, there's a framework in which you could try to isolate internet service providers and make them publicly regulated and get licenses. But the problem with that has been, even if you just keep with TV, then you have paid subscription services. Well, that's where HBO became big, and those are not held by the same standards because you pay for them. So Supreme Court has basically said, look, you pay for that service. It's not a public service. You do what you want with it. And so I fear that because, like you were saying, the protection of private business, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, I think Instagram's owned by Facebook. But anyway, the point being they get to control that.
They're owned by Meta.
Oh, yeah. It's all Meta. I forget. So, at what point do we hold them responsible? That's that whole Section 230 thing that everyone's always arguing about. Do you make them responsible for content as a publisher so they can be held liable? just so libel laws can start applying, or do you
So
let
because
them
they're
publish?
just hosting, they get around that? That's how that works?
Yeah, essentially, they're not creating the content, and they're not a publisher of the content. You're technically the one publishing it, as you put it out there. So they're not responsible for it. Now, they do have, terms of service and things like that they get to regulate and decide, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Of course, anything that's regulated or illegal, they can't legally allow to stay up. They can get in trouble for it. But as far as it being, I don't know, regulated in the way we would normally think speech is regulated, because they aren't the ones saying it, so to speak, they're not held liable.
Well, okay, but back to my point. Are you ready for this?
No.
Are you ready for augmented reality to be reality?
No, we're not even good with the internet as it is. That's what I was what my brain went when you said augmented reality.
Yeah, and I didn't mean you personally. I just meant like,
No, I know, yeah.
is it,
No, we're definitely
are we ready
not.
for this?
I mean, look at what a pandemic did, and I really don't want to talk about COVID, but I do want to talk about when it pushed us into our homes, into that world of nothing but internet land.
I hated it.
I hated it, but the reaction, and you guys have seen it, when we have come back to the real world of school, kids have changed.
There's been some changes.
The interactions have changed between their peers, between us.
You think they can readjust though? I mean, we've seen a
Sure.
bit of that where people
Yeah.
have got. I mean, we had some bumpy moments, but
It's slowly getting back to normal, and it's that socialization aspect of it
Yeah.
where, you can be re-socialized to anything almost, but
I don't want to live in an avatar world, man.
I don't either. But that's what I'm
the article.
picturing as
In
meta.
the article I was reading, though, the people that were talking against the guy who was complaining that it's dystopian, they were like, "But it's so beautiful." I mean, it was very much like a red pill, blue pill kind of moment for me when I was reading what he was saying. Like, do you go down this path of reality, or do you choose to live in the fantasy world?
Well, it's like Brave New World and Soma.
That is
You feel
exactly what I was
so
thinking.
good.
Ooh, I'm glad you said that because that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, just take some more Soma. Just live your best life.
That's the thing is with augmented reality, it might give you more endorphins for whatever misinformation it's also sharing with you at the same time. It might be more convincing.
People are
than it
already so disengaged from what seems to matter most and live in some sort of fantasy land, and now we're going to make that. I mean, okay, listen. Millennials, listen to me. Like, you need to set your phone down and look at people, Gen Xers like myself are irritated at you because you're doing your own thing, which I get that to a certain degree. But I also see Gen Z people looking at millennials going, "Hey man, like do something real." But then you get this weird sort of in between these, like each of the generations that are still sort of functioning around each other. There's this element within inside those groups that seem to want to distance themselves from reality. Like, I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to be part of this. I want to have my own experience, man. Like, don't you find some danger in that, as it seems like more and more people are sort of drifting down those paths? It's like an Alice in Wonderland moment for me. Like, we're all fixing to go through the looking glass whether we want to or not.
Yeah, I think, like, when you talk about when this has happened before, people said this about TV, people zoning in on a TV or whatever. Just pick your thing.
Yeah, but you can turn the TV off. I don't know that you can. There's going to be a point in time where you can't turn this off.
Well, the thing that I think makes this dangerous is it gives you your own independent world that's only unique to you. Like, if you look at my YouTube, my Facebook, it's just catered to me, and the algorithms just give me more of what I want.
It's the echo chamber.
And it isolates you from, like with TV, at least it was a shared experience with everybody else that was watching the same show. This is the first thing where it's not really like we think of internet as shared, but in reality it's isolating. And my hope for this was that we're in the middle of figuring this out, just like past generations have. But this is so unique, my brain can't figure out the answer of how this will end. I mean, except for dystopia and Mad Max.
You want to talk about the opiate of the masses, though? Like, here it is.
Yeah, well, they're
Everybody gets their own
lost
special
in it.
pill.
Yes, and they're lost in it because in that moment, in that space, they create exactly what you're saying. They create what they want to see. They live in it. It becomes reality, even though it's not their reality.
And it's almost like a cocoon, where
Yes.
and you step outside that and you don't feel comfortable
and you
anymore.
feel broken, or you feel
it's weird,
it's dangerous.
It plays on human nature, our natural instinct to go towards stuff we already agree with that makes us feel good. It takes a lot of work to shut the phone off or watch stuff you disagree with to try to get the
Well, that's
other
what I'm saying.
side.
But being around people in a society is challenging because there are people with different ideas and who are going to step on your toes sometimes.
Sure.
And you got to learn to deal with that. So this is like pushing people away from socialization and being just in their own little head, in their own little world. And I'm safe right here. Well, you're not actually, though. That makes you more vulnerable, in my opinion.
And also what people say online is different than they would say in person.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that whole thing. Plus body language comes into play. I mean, I don't know. Maybe augmented reality will help somehow. But it's really, what age am I going to get to where I'm like old people I know? You know, you reach a certain age where, okay,
You talking
that's
about
it. No, well, yeah, kind of like you. I'm 3 years away. But yeah, like older people, if you notice, they're going along, they're learning stuff in their 40s, maybe into their 50s. But there's a point where they're like, that's it. I'm not learning anything else, and I'm
Yeah.
against it.
I'm done.
And I think we're getting close to where I'm just going to fold my arms and frown
Yeah.
at everything. Because, you know, that's just kind
Everybody's
of...
a whippersnapper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we look back, we were just talking about how we grew up on farms with chickens, and it seems like I miss those good old days. We hated it when we were there.
We hated it.
But there is an interesting simplicity to that is appealing, especially when you deal with all of the right. Okay, bring Teddy Roosevelt into augmented reality. Like, bring him back from the early 1900s and put him in this mess and see how he's going to react. Like, I would love to see that guy's reaction. Would you? Because he wouldn't hold his tongue. Would he?
No, I definitely don't think so. It's funny because we've been talking about him in campaign finance reform because he was one of the first that made an effort, at least. So it's funny to bring him in to plop Teddy down into modern times and see what he would do. I think he would,
He's going to go Rough Rider on some people.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like we're looking at this technology thing is like, how are we ever going to solve this? I wonder if people looked at monopolies and like when McKinley won, basically they bought his presidential election, Carnegie and Rockefeller and all them joined together these monopolies. I wonder if people at the time thought, how are we going to keep big business from just controlling? And of course, you could argue that we didn't figure that out. This is the exact same argument.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully somebody smarter will come along and solve this.
What kind of blissful nostalgia do you have from your childhood that you would like to bring back?
I mean, look, I grew up different, as you know, on a farm. I hated every minute of it. But one thing that I miss is we were on a family farm. So like me, my brother, my sister, my mom, and my dad were all together all the time. And we might not have appreciated it as much at the time. But I'll never forget the times where me and my brother are feeding calves, singing harmonies, as brothers do. Like that family time, it doesn't seem like we have that much time. It's like I had more time together with the people I love, and it really shaped me. My mom and dad were always around, and my brother, sister, they're right there, and that distance we have now. So I look back at that and go, farming sucked, and it was hot, and I hated the hay and all of it. But the family stuff, I like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I got to grow up with my great-grandparents and my grandparents and my mom and dad and my sister and that experience and all of my cousins and the huge family. And the land is, they're not farming anymore, but the land is still owned by all of the family. And it is I'm with you. That's the special thing about it. We look back and go, yeah, there were days that were hell and we don't want to repeat them at all. And I kind of came up when everything was slowing down too. My grandpa was, my great grandpa passed. My grandpa was slowing down. He had, he was a school superintendent. He had retired, and so I got in on the end of it. Really,
me too. Yeah.
But I think that is what I miss and I think that people are missing out not having that familial in that shared experience.
My children, when I take them back to my parents, because my dad still owns all of it, and I take them on the side by side and ride around the fields, they want to climb on the hay bales, like all the stuff I hated. And they're like, if I wish, and we still have cows.
Because they didn't have to put the hay bales in that spot.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Well, my grandpa used to take me on the horse and buggy rides, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's always that.
But yes, it's the exact same thing. If I grew up when that was how you got around, man, or walked, yeah, I mean, I'd hate it. But
you're different than us because we kind of grew up on farm out in the middle of the fields. What was when you were growing up? Is there some nostalgia there that you?
The first thing that comes to mind, which is also a family thing, but it also kind of speaks to the different age too. Like I missed the joy of getting up on a Saturday morning and knowing that it was like Saturday morning cartoons, man. And my parents would sleep in, and my brother and I would get up, and we would raid the kitchen for whatever cereal was at hand, and we'd plop down, and I would complain. I was the kid who didn't want to get up and go to school. I would bitch and moan the whole time. I don't want to go. Just I'm a zombie. But we would be up before. Let me age myself. Before TV came on, we were up, and we had the TV. The set would come on, but there were no programs because you had restrictions on how long you could have your broadcast day. Oh yeah, and we would have that little color ad thing. It was like, ooh, it would just be the little color zone, like a kind of a rainbowy thing across the screen, and you'd wait, and you'd just like, well, actually, before that, if you got up just in time, it was static, just white noise, and then it was the ooh thing, and then all of a sudden they would have like. The national anthem would come on, and there's the flag flying, and everybody do the thing, and the jets are flying over, and God bless America, and then next thing you know, boy, it's Bugs Bunny for 3 straight hours, and we're sitting there chowing down on Captain Crunch, and it was just me and him early in the morning, and it was just kind of this cool, and you watch that till whatever, seriously, like 3 or 4 hours worth of cartoons is what you got, and then you went out and played. And we had all the kids in the neighborhood who were about the same age, and we'd all load out there about the same time. Yeah. And we'd ride our bikes, and we just go, just kind of goof off and just be kids. Like, I missed that, Yeah. And I don't know, with 24-hour, TV never shuts off. And now with internet, it's always, and people are always plugged in.
Oh, the bike rides.
Like, you can't just riding my bike. My bike was freedom for me, I would.
That's a good one.
I would take a beating. That it was harder on me for them to take my bike away. That was their punishment. Like, you will be banished from your bike for this. I was like, no,
my freedom.
Please just smack me and get it over with, so I can go ride. Yeah. That was it was punishment to take that away. There was such a freedom in it.
Yeah. Well, same. Because like our driveway in my grandpa's farm was a mile long. And so I had a mile of driveway that I could on my bike. If I got mad at somebody or me and the dog, like down the hill and all the driveway, right? And Mom would be like, stop at the cattle guard. Because once you go to the cattle guard, then the highway's on the other, and so she's like, turn out the cattle guard.
Summertime we would be out. My mom taught and, So she was off the summers with us, but she'd be like, look, get out of my house. She'd lock us out during parts of the day, and we'd run around. We'd come home for lunch, and then she'd lock us out again, and don't come home till the streetlights come on. Everybody knew. It was just like this little tight-knit little subdivision I was in, and a bunch of kids about the same age, and everybody watched out for us. And we were, have you seen the kids? Well, they're over at Grandpa so-and-so's house, and we'd play in their yard for a while, or we'd be in the woods over here. Just kind of stuff like that. And then, it get a little dark, catch some fireflies, and maybe smear them on something so you can still see, and then smear it on the football so we can still play, stuff like that. Just weird, goofy stuff that kids did. That's the kind of stuff I miss. That's my nostalgia.
Parents were more risk takers. Because I think about what my mom.
They didn't know where we were half the time, dude.
No,
but they were okay with that.
We just go out in the woods and just go find a stream, or we'd have a pile of junk, and we're going to invent a train.
Yeah.
We were picking up stuff. There could be snakes. We saw snakes everywhere. And it's like when my daughter or anybody, like when they're just going away from the house, I think, I wonder if a bear's out there. I just have the worst thought. It's like, all right, come back closer to the house. And my parents didn't even know where I was half the time.
Right.
And I think, man, we've lost something in that. And I understand I got hurt some.
I was that way with my kids, though, too. Even though I enjoyed all that freedom, I was a little like, hey, come back over this way a little bit. But I tried to let them run, too. But there's always that. And maybe our parents were more concerned about us than they seemed. You know, because, I mean, everybody knew where we were. Somebody in the neighborhood knew where we were as a group or the proximity, you know. But I don't know, there was less of a helicopter mentality, I think, at that time, too. Because I grew up in the 70s, like I said before. You know, people just kind of trusted each other and, you know, not that kids didn't disappear or kids didn't get hurt or, you know, bears didn't get kicked. Because they did. Things happened. No, but nobody I knew, obviously. But, you know, there was sort of this, I don't know, the expectation of kids go be kids, you know. Get out of the house, go be a kid. Go run around, do your thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Mom was a teacher, too. She'd kick us out. Same thing. Yeah.
And just being outside. Because then once again, you think about human evolution and human nature. Like, we just keep our kids inside and we wonder, why are they having all these mental health issues? Maybe because we don't let them do what humans do, which is go outside, explore, run around, get in fights, you know.
You ever climb a tree and then couldn't figure out how to get down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've done,
Been
and
there.
I've jumped.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah, and you'll get in a fight with somebody, or not even a fist fight, just an argument, and you know you had bullies you had to deal with, and you just had to figure it out. And I think we've went the other way too much. And I'm not saying that we should promote bullying, bullying at school. No, I don't think that. But I'm saying like for all the progress we've made, I think we've lost something in not letting kids figure stuff out.
Don't you feel that you were more resilient because you had to figure some things out on your own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is why I think,
and more self-confident?
Yeah. I mean, this is why I think sports are valuable at school because it does put kids in a situation where they're competing and they have to figure stuff out and the coach is yelling at them and you know, they have to learn to deal with that. And, you know, but we have a large percent of our students that don't play sports. And, you know, how are they figuring things out? And, of course, bullying online is horrific.
Yeah.
That's not the way you
Well,
do it
okay, so the thing with our version of bullying that we dealt with was that a kid called you a name and you either got into a fight about it or you ran and told somebody or you dealt with it and you got away from them.
Yeah.
Well, the bullying now, like, you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's everywhere. It's
And
all
I think
the
that's a
time.
real difference.
And it's different. It's when you got bullied personally, it's once again, it's that thing, being physically in front of someone, that's a different thing than having it said to you, some horrific stuff, and then it's your mind goes and goes and goes. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the solution to any of this, but I do think we've lost something, which once again, it's something every old person says.
If somebody said something to you that humiliated you as a child, there was a handful of people that knew about it. Now, millions of people could know about it and share in the mocking of you, and that humiliation just spreads. And it's a different level of intensity for people today that are experiencing these things. It's just so it's not. I don't even think it's not even the same thing anymore. I guess the intensity is so bad.
What I need to think about more is that every kid has a phone and a camera. And
Yes,
what would
that's
that
what I
have
was
been
about to say.
like for me?
Oh, man.
Everything I did could be videotaped. And the school even has cameras everywhere.
Sure.
It's just like your whole life is on camera.
What happens if the dumb things you did as a kid could never be erased or never be forgotten?
Yeah.
Like that's a weird reality.
Yeah.
And they're living it.
Yeah,
It's under a
right.
spotlight. Everything that's...
I mean, we are too, to a certain degree, but
Yeah,
we're
older
adults
now.
and we
Yeah.
know how to deal with things better. But yeah,
Oh, yeah. And how do you get away with anything today? You know, because they can track you. They can track where you were. They can look, hey, on this camera, I can see...
man, I was watching a thing the other day about a guy who it was one of those. I don't know if it was like Forensic Files or something like that, but it was this guy who recently murdered his wife and 2 young daughters because it was out in I want to say, I don't know, was it Texas? I don't know where it was, Colorado somewhere. But he worked oil fields and stuff, and so he got into a fight with his pregnant wife, and he ends up killing her. He was having an affair besides that. But anyway, kills her, then takes the kids, kills them, puts them all in like oil wells and bears her body out here. That guy. Okay, well, one of the reasons they knew that it was him and about where he had put the bodies was because he drove his truck to the site where he dumped the bodies, and all they had to do was check his GPS that was associated with his truck. Like, what kind of, I mean, number one, what kind of idiot are you to murder your people? But secondly, did you think you were going to get away with that? Didn't you know? Don't you know that your OnStar is watching everywhere you go and can be logged back and printed out for the authorities? Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Or if nothing else, your phone. Like, even if his truck didn't have that, which I think most things do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But your phone is on. You know,
You're being tracked. You're being watched.
Yeah.
Don't you know that, idiot?
back in the good old days when serial killers could get away with murdering people.
You just lie to people's face, and they
No, I had nothing
to
to do with it, Your Honor. Yeah. Okay. Well.
All right.
See
Case
ya.
dismissed. That's why eyewitnesses were so important.
See, this goes back to torture day. Why are we laughing at that?
I don't know.
It's macabre curiosity.
Like if you think about our court system, historically you place so much on eyewitness accounts because
Which is horrible,
That's
too.
it.
Oh yeah,
Which is
it's
horrible.
It's the most unreliable form of evidence.
You've got
Actually,
bias, you got your memory that's crazy. You know, you
and you
remember
can
things different.
convince yourself of something that happened that did not. You can actually mentally do that.
Like you could say the election was stolen enough times, where people
believe it.
Even without the repetition of people who have political agendas, I will tell you that the older I get, the more I realize that that's happening to me. Like I will go, like I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and I was like, something. He goes, that didn't happen. I go, yes, it did. You were there, and I was there. He goes, that's not how that happened. One of us is wrong, and I don't know which one of us it is. You know,
you tell a story so many times you think you were there.
Yeah.
When you weren't, you visualized it enough.
Okay, that's another one because there's another buddy swears up and down that I was at a concert with them and I did not go because there was something happened. I did have tickets to go, but something happened and I couldn't go. But he swears up and down that I was there. I was like, I was not there with you. Yes, you were, man. I'm like, okay.
We got tattoos. Oh yeah, there it is.
Oh, it was there. Okay. So anyway, it's weird. Memory can fail you, or I don't know. Maybe that's why nostalgia is a thing because you look back and you go, oh, I remember it like that. Maybe it wasn't like that at all. Right. I don't know. Saturday morning cartoons were pretty special because you only got them once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for a limited time. Then it was over.
Now you can ignore the teacher and watch them on your phone.
Yeah, you can watch it. Right. You can ignore your history teacher and you can watch your phone.
It's been years ago, so I feel okay saying this. I had a kid sit and watch Grey's Anatomy every day, and I was like, you know what? Just fail. And but I tried multiple times. Nope, wasn't going to do it. And I thought
I've heard that show is addicting.
Well,
addictive.
Apparently it was. So.
Yeah. Well, what if you were that way? Like you're at your desk watching Grey's Anatomy. The kids are just hey, are we going to get taught anything? Be quiet.
The principal's in the doorway.
This is a great show. That student got me watching this. Okay, so let's do this 3 minutes in closing. I feel like a preacher now. In closing, I'd like to do so. It's November.
Are you going to take up a collection? What are you doing?
Yes, we need to dive.
We need a roof.
We need a new roof quicker. Let's go around the room. It's November, so here we are. It's Thanksgiving. It's coming. We're all looking forward to it. So here's your responsibility. Give me your favorite traditional Thanksgiving food and your least favorite that's always on the table.
Oh, God.
So think about that. Process it.
I've got mine already.
Take off.
Ready to go.
What's your favorite?
My wife makes the best dressing to go with the turkey and stuff. I mean, it is fantastic. Matter of fact, I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. It's so good, we don't wait a whole year to have it again. Like midsummer, we have half Thanksgiving. Just because it's that good. I would like to have this more now, please. And so we're like, hey, we're adults. We can make it whenever we want to. We don't have to wait till Thanksgiving. So anyway, but it's so freaking good. It's the best. It's some of the best food ever. It's comfort food straight up. It's so
Let me jump in
mine
for
too.
just 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I have a theory about dressing because I don't know one single child under 10 that likes it. But at some point you start liking it. Is it because it's so complex and the texture is such a complex thing that, when kids are little, you just give them like baby food. It's got one flavor forever. And they like a sandwich plain. And then they get introduced. It's like dressing
Start
is the
layering
ultimate
it.
adult. Yeah, because
she hits the right amount of, because I've had people who make dressing with a little too much sage, and you get it, and you take that bite, and you're like, okay, I can't finish this. But my wife has this amazing ability, like her olfactory system is like perfect. Like you're talking about your sister with perfect pitch. Mm-hmm. My wife has that with her sinuses. Like the smell. She'll smell like, okay, that's just right. So she doesn't measure things. She just goes tink tink tink, and then that kind of smells it a little bit or takes a little taste and can nail it. And I've so been fascinated by that because I get the benefit of that too because she's a great cook. Awesome. All right, so I love
coming over for Thanksgiving.
I love that. Because, like I said, she's perfected that over the years.
Now, what does she horrible at cooking?
Well, she'll admit she doesn't know how to make gravy, which is weird because it's so simple. She's like, But she's got this phobia about it or something because she burned it one time when she was a kid or something, and somebody, I don't know if somebody yelled at her, I don't know, but because they cooked a lot when they were kids in the family. They took turns anyway. So, but apparently she had some sort of traumatic experience with gravy making, and so she's like, I'm the guy that makes the gravy. So anyway, but she won't make that. But anything else, like she puts her mind to it. She's great. All right, and that's not me just sucking up, by the way. She really is. The thing I hate at Thanksgiving, I do not want to see it. I never really ever want to see it on a table. I dang sure ain't going to take a scoop of it, even to be polite. Green bean casserole with those weird oniony things on top. Sorry, I just don't. I can't.
I'm not a fan either.
I can't, and I don't know what it is exactly. It just bothers me. It's like I don't know if it's the combination of flavors or the fact that it's just. I don't know. It just doesn't seem. It seems unnatural in some way.
I don't like it.
I don't know. Yeah, that's just. I don't care for the flavor combination. I like green beans, but I don't like them in a casserole.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah, but everything else, I'm good.
All right. What's your favorite, Nixon?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the dressing. I love the dressing. But like my second, like sentimental, nostalgic favorite is that my grandmother always left the cream corn on the stove too long, and it was a little bit burnt. And I hit the table. I don't know why, but I just kind of miss that. Like,
you want the cream corn?
I kind of want the
if I'm gonna have cream corn, I'm gonna burn it just a little bit.
But I hate cranberry sauce. Why is it a thing? I cannot do it.
Okay, have you ever had fresh cranberry sauce?
Probably not.
Not the canned crap.
Probably not.
Sorry, Ocean Spray, but have you tried real, like homemade, honest to God?
No,
fresh made cranberry sauce.
Because my mom's not a fan of it either, so we've just never had it.
Okay, so for some reason my son is like a cranberry fan. He like loves cranberry. So my wife decided one year to surprise him and make some fresh made, and it's better. It's better than anything that you'll ever get out of that can. It's so good. I'll get the recipe for you. Yeah, no, because you need to try this stuff. It's awesome. Because I will wager that you will change your mind.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so mine, I really like all the traditional Thanksgiving food. I mean, I love the ham or the turkey, whatever. Mm-hmm. I love the dressing. All of that's great. But I'm kind of with Nixon on the sweet stuff that they shoehorn in to this normal meal. It's like the cranberries is one thing that's just like why am I having a dessert with my meal? Or the pink stuff with the marshmallows on top, or the sweet potato pie. It's like, I'll have it, but let me eat my normal meal first, and I'll have it as a dessert. But for some reason on Thanksgiving, they're like, nope, it goes right there by the dressing. I'm like, but it's like it's like chewing chocolate and brushing your teeth. It's like these don't go together.
I'm not a fan of marshmallowy anything though. Whether whipped or otherwise, it's just something.
There's always some fruit thing that's sweet that you're supposed to eat with the meal. But
what about the aunt that will bring over like Jell-O with stuff in it?
Oh, can't do it.
I know.
I don't like that.
It's funny though with the pies, that's dessert. But I mean, with all this other stuff, no, that goes with the meal. And it's like, to me, that's this, like, you don't take a chocolate pie and just mix it in with your turkey and like that. Oh, that's gross. But they'll do this other stuff.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
a fruit salad with who knows what's in it.
Yeah, no.
Okay, well, hey, that was a cornucopia of topics. We had a list of stuff we were going to do, and we ignored all of it. So
Good job.
It's a great podcast. So we will see you next time. Goodbye.